This is your daily market review for Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. Let's go. Hey everyone, this is my channel to help investors and traders develop a probability-based mindset to succeed. Also try and keep friends informed of what's going on in the markets and the economy, and also a little real estate content as well. This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent, and this is your daily market review for Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. Hopefully you're having a great day. If you get a chance, check out the live chat we did earlier in the day. And let's get into it. So CPI data came in 0.1% lower, and the market got jonesed and excited about such and rallied beyond what most people thought was possible. Clearly, in the morning, if you watch the futures action, someone created the monster squeeze of squeezes. And once that got going, it was off to the races. So at this point, let's talk about the gaps, the formations, everything that's going on. And I always warn people, at some point, pride before the fall, and or you will be humbled. The market is very good at humbling everybody at some point because, again, in a probability game, you can't always win. So please reach out if you have any questions. Again, always here to help. I appreciate all the love, support, generous donations, time, efforts people are giving to get involved. And it's looking like we're expecting now 3 cuts next year. The Fed pivot. If they do this, this will be the most anticipated, talked about Fed pivot in history. But here's the thing we need to pay attention to is the bond market. Because again, we still have a ton of debt to sell. And now that potentially the budget could get passed, can get passed, we'll see how the markets act. New to the channel, check out the YouTube channel as well. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get the alerts that we're doing live chats. Hit us up on the Twitter, posting ideas, thoughts, issues. Let me know how I can help you. And also, tradingagent.com, Back to Basics series, more beginner to advanced level. Check out the link to Interactive Brokers. Do not trust that all the brokers are going to be solvent through this. I'm telling you, it's not going to be an easy process. The banking crisis, for whatever people believe it's not or is, commercial real estate levels, literally the lowest occupancy in history for commercial real estate was announced in the last couple of days. They're talking about the data. And then as I'm seeing in the real estate market, I mean, again, everyone knows next year is going to be the problem. Just don't wait till next year to make moves. That's all I ask. So again, Fed Watch tool, you read there are 3 cuts coming. Bitcoin, channel high, rejection. Keep an eye on this. I mean, I would watch the 33.9 area next. I think it's pretty clear that there'll be some sort of bounce point unless it gets absolutely cremated, which typically it's chopping before it drops, and maybe it's just a backfill. Oil, as we talked about, look below and fail, bounce back, needs to get back over the 79 level. I mean, demand destruction is a real thing, y'all. Nat gas, I mean, it's been absolutely just a joke. And again, I don't know when it wakes up, but I'm not going to bet on it. The dollar got crushed today, which again was interesting to me. We've been in this chop range, and one of the things that I've been saying for what seems like literally years, because it's been pretty stable, is watch for dollar and bond volatility. If they start picking up on both ends, well, you're starting to see the dollar volatility. Now look at the bonds today, right? Look at the TLT, bounces back up and doji tights in this gap. I don't know. There's like old trend lines. I mean, whoa, that goes way back. I don't even want to zoom in. It's confusing at this point. But I would have in the back of your mind, watch this area in here. Watch this 89 area. Because again, if you have like a bigger bandwidth about what you're thinking here, like keep in mind, like absolutely keep in, like here, I just want to zoom out on the monthly. Sorry, on the weekly. Like we're at levels that you're not surprised that they bounce, but if we've got $8.5 trillion of debt to roll over in the next 2 to 3 years, long dated debt, I don't know who wants to buy debt at these rates until inflation in the market start getting really soft. Because then you'll hit deflation. You'll get people, and the Feds will have to go more QE, and they'll start supporting the bond market. But that's where I think this could be choppy and sloppy. VIX gets down to levels again. Just interesting. Some people are talking about 12, 13. I don't think that's going to happen. Honestly, I think it's just OPEX, and it is what it is. Here's the VIX again, holding up into this range in the 80s. SPY blowing it out, right? Just absolute crushing it. Gets to 450 and change. Fills a gap. Massively overstretched. I mean, you went from oversold to, like, again, if this is oversold, what is this, right? Overbought, right? So it just is what it is. I mean, you sit here and you do this long enough, you don't, what's the best word? Let me just remove this real quick. You're going to be humbled. Like, this made sense. Like, if you were in some shorts before, it made sense yesterday because we had run up so quick. Now this gapping, if you took some shorts on today or you just stopped out and you're watching because it's OPEX, nothing wrong with that either. Again, just preserve capital at all costs. But this is where it gets interesting because this gap, and I talked about this in the live today, and again, it just is what it is. Like, big gaps, like 10-point gaps, right? 10-point gaps, right? At extremes, at highs, right? Like big gaps at near-term highs and lows. I'm trying to, like, here you go. Gaps down, rallies back. Now, is this a big gap? I mean, it is. Think about it. It's almost a 10-point move in one day. I mean, the market's rallied almost 10%. I think more than 10% actually. 409, yeah. Yeah, more than 10% basically, or right at 10% in 12 days. Just keep that in mind. It's QQQQ. Same kind of thing, right? Like this big gap. We've talked about big gaps in the Qs, right? Like, here you go down here. Gap up, flop, gap up, flop, gap up, continuation. But again, I mean, this is a probability-based game. Again, this isn't like RSI and MACD where you're just like hoping that there's divergences. Like, we're just keeping an eye on repeating patterns. Like, now you filled a gap, keep an eye on it. IWM, this is what's interesting. Is like earlier in this week, I thought it was due. Look at this. Everybody and their mom. Come on into the IWM. Where did you get to? Filling the gap. You got, I don't know, you've got a massive VAP zone here. High, obviously. We'll see if it sustains. Because a lot of people are going to argue there's a professional gap, then it could be with high volume, but I'm also little confused knowing that it is OPEX, whether it'll sustain. If you zoom out, it just looks like, again, choppiness. Could you get back up to the 190s? We'll see. We shall see. DIA up, you would think it'd be up more today, but look what it did. Just retest back into this range, keeping on it. Gold, I honestly thought gold would be up like a lot more, honestly. With the dollar's action and the CPI data, man, hits the 20-day, fails. Silver, a little more gusto, oomph. But look where it's at. Like, it should be up in the, like, 23 area. I don't know. That's tough to say. GDX, we talked about these being oversold, near-term, choppy, sloppy action, retesting areas. Again, this is me personally watching this stuff for years. I know 5% move in the GDX is, pretty good, but I've seen 10, 15, not 15, but I mean, you'll see some really nice 10, 15% moves, like big moves in a day, if they were really juicing off of the lows. And that's where I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. These are tough. Be cognizant. Trade around them if you must. AG, same thing. Oversold, chopping around. AEM was holding up better. We talked about it. The 47 level, nice little bounce. Newmont, I think, just confounds and just confusing because it should be in the 50 area, but it's just at the lows. And PAAS, we talked about this one just getting just smashed. Now it's just chopping around. Let's get into the bread and butter. Let's look at tech, right? Taiwan Semi data the other day. Everyone got excited about it. We'll see. This one's obvious to me. Like, there's a lot of risk on. If you go look at a lot of the 13Fs that got let off today, a lot of people were unloading Taiwan Semi. A lot of people were basically giving up on financials. They were buying certain tech, but overall, it was interesting just going through the 13Fs because I couldn't really find any major themes other than that. Nobody wanted financials, and certain people, like certain tech names, were sold more than others. Micron, what do you say at this point? I mean, that's holding up pretty good at this point. Is this a novice gap? That's the only question here because there's a ton of gaps at inflection points on this name. Just keep that in mind. I don't know. AM Dizzle gets up into the 120 area. Look where the back test of this, and then Doji's, right? Keep an eye on it. NVIDIA, I honestly thought this would be over 500. But you got a Doji today. That's a little ominous. Intel, intellectual property, was down early and then rallied back. Still in an area that I think is shortable. But just be cognizant. Be careful. Be thoughtful. SMH up in this 160s area. This is crazy. This is silly. Oh, sorry. Let me mute this. These tabs, people get very excited. Check this out, right? You're just back at the highs. Interesting. Another big gapper. Gap at extremes, right? Gap at the highs. Gap to start the move. Gap, gap, gap. Keep an eye on it. Gaps, baby. Shop at the gap. No, I'm just kidding. Adobe, another hammer pops off. Apple, this was interesting because it was all over the place today, but then it just formed a doji. And if you go, let me see if it was the 10-minute, was it Apple 10-minute? I don't know. There seemed to be a lot of distribution at the end of the day in some of these names. That's all. Amazonian, right? Keep an eye on this like gap with the wick at the high. CRM, this one I talked about in the daily or the review. I'm like, I don't know if I would take a stab at this one just yet. Like it looks like it has that zone to test. Guggenheim, a lot of people were buying this on the 13Fs. Here you go, back testing everything with a doji. Interessante, Meta, popped, chopped. Kind of a tight day again. Some of these names you thought they'd be up more, like Microsoft, I thought would be up like 10 points. Nope, doji looking a little tired. NDAQ, love it up here in the 53s. Think this is a good short spot. Keep an eye on it. MicroStrategy again with Bitcoin peeling back. We talked about this candle being the top, looking more like it near term. The Netflixer got in the 450s. We talk about this as a short spot. Look at the doji today. Some of these tech names, a little ominous. Some look better than others. Again, here you go. Open high, close low, Roblox. Tesla is one we said, it'd be nicer to wait for a pop. I think you can see it. 240s would be the absolute best spot to short. Costco, glad we did not reshort this thing. Today closed at the highs. I know you got Walmart's data coming up. Home Depot is a joke. I mean, I don't know if you saw their numbers, but they were an absolute joke. But guess what? The only person laughing are clearly the bulls. But look at the action. I mean, it was like rip and then all afternoon just distribute. So keep an eye on this stuff. I mean, it's worth noting. FedEx got to the 100-day, if I remember correctly. Yep. Backing off. Looks interesting. Caterpillar, we talked about what? Watching up in this 200 area in the 150s. You got it. Now, again, could it be a couple days before it turns around? That's what I'd be watching. The new core, we talked about this mid 150s. You got it. 200-day. Doji. I mean, some of these names, again, I don't even know why I'm talking about X. VALE was holding up pretty good, right? This one's been holding up the 200-day. Keep an eye up here in the 1530s. Arrow, this thing has been absolutely run through the mud, crapped on, whatever you want to call it. Due to bounce, I guess. CCJ. Closed at the high of the day, which was interesting because it was down most of the day, but look at this candle. I mean, again, there's a lot of these that showed up. Not necessarily just like this bad, but a lot of wicks where if you look at it, it looked like somebody was distributing today. But again, the action does not show distribution because it looks like the market's cranking. CF, again, a lot of these mosaic, I mean, they all had this, right? Where they had these like nice pop and then some wick, NTR, same kind of thing. Little wiki at the 20-day. AA closed with again, the last hour. I mean, there's tons of volume of selling on these things, but who knows, short term. XLF, really wanted to see the trend line. Well, shit, you got it. But then you got the wick. And again, look at the close on the 10-minute. You'll see the volumes came in. JP Morgan, I mean, this thing was, holding up really well all day. Got in the 149s, got up at that, old range. And there came the sellers. Again, Morgan Stanley, this thing popped. This thing's been a lagging piece of poop. All right, hits the 50-day. Doink. Keep an eye on it. Bank of America. I honestly never thought in a million years we'd get up to the 200-day or even up into this area. Let me just stretch this circle out. Oh, sorry. But we got there. We got there. Impressive as it. Stop it. But there it is. Oops, there it is. So keep an eye on Goldman. Again, if you shorted this at the channel, ouch. I mean, it went a little higher, not surprisingly, but this gets interesting. I mean, if you zoom out here, I apologize. Let me get some of this. We can get some of this monthly action, weekly. I mean, you can see it like you're at the trend line essentially. You're at trend here, and this thing has been going nowhere for a while. And you've got lower highs, lower lows, but it seems to be holding the 280s. I'd be curious. I'd be curious to know if this is going to continue ripping in time. I would highly doubtful of it, but that is what it is. Carry, right? Look at this. Like all these days down, gap up. Said it would be amazing if you get a 200-day touch. We talked about that like a couple weeks ago. It's like, man, this thing has been just lagging so hard. Maybe you get it. Maybe you get it and it hits. I mean, I don't know. Could it hit? Again, this is all just talking about hypothetical. Like, remember, these high volume candles right here are going to act like resistance. So anywhere near the 45s, I would absolutely keep an eye on it. XBI, this thing has been freaking nuts, absolutely up and down. I couldn't even get over the 50-day in that area. So, I mean, again, you need to watch for continuation. If it doesn't happen, doesn't happen. IYT, transports talked about like, man, due to bounce, 200-day, there you go. See what happens. I mean, not due to bounce, but expected bounces, but did not expect that strong. Look at the XLI, gets to the 100-day, starts peeling. XLB, this one, again, breaks the trend. But look where it closes again. It needs to get over this 80 area. Here you go. Check out the housing stocks. I mean, this gap. I mean, again, watch the gap. That's all I say. Please mind the gap. XRT. Look at the retail names. Right. We talked about this. Been lagging. Hits the trend line. 200-day, 100-day. Well, we'll see what happens. Solar talked about it was like due to bounce. Said if they get a budget deal, maybe it bounces. Well, there you go. Is solar the new buy down here? I mean, everyone's going to argue it is or isn't, but we've been saying like these things have been a short, and so look for bounces. 20-day, again, I would really like to see a lot more bounce in these names. ENPH, maybe you don't get it. First Solar, finally, but I was really hoping it would do it and get to up here in the 160s. Not so much. HYG, keep an eye on this one, right? Back up the channel. And this is where it's like, I think people need to like zoom out. Like, this is the thing about junk debt. I mean, it looks bad on the monthly. It's just hitting the 20-month, and there's massive resistance here at the 75 level. All the way back until the oblivion of time, the beginning of time, not the oblivion. Not looking so hot. And then you throw in, right, oil, gas, and we'll end it there. This is the oil, chopping, slopping, long wicking it. The natural gas going nowhere, closing at the low of the day. Don't even want to show it. XOP, another name, right? We talked about back testing the trend line. All right, maybe. Exxon Mobil. I mean, you would think this would be at like $3 or $4. Nope, nothing much. MPC, not surprised it bounced right at the trend line. I don't know. I mean, if you see 153, I think that's safer. Valero, this one has been lagging harder. I mean, this makes sense. Watch these moving averages converging. Occidental, I mean, up 12 cents. This is something doesn't make sense with oil and gas names. Then EQT, same thing. You would think this one would be up like $2 or $3. A lot of dojis and nothingness, right? And Flex LNG chopping around. Okay, this is hard. And this is where I'm going to stress this. Like, if you beating yourself up beyond reproach because you think like the market somehow is always going to be easy and pay you and you should have known what was going to happen, this is where regroup, lick your wounds, take the day off if you need to. Think about it. Like I put in my journal, humility. Humility is the key here. Really, nothing is certain. You may think that the market looks like it needs to do this. Wrong. That's just what happens, y'all. Have any questions, please reach out. I love you guys. Please be safe out there. If you're a hater and you're just rubbing it in and think that you're never going to lose, just remember, pride before the fall, have humility. Even for the people who are haters, you got to have it. I don't care. I'd rather help you out and tell you that you need it, because at some point you will be humbled. We all will. All right. Peace.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the Discord room. A link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like to help support more free content, the PayPal link is in the description as well. I appreciate your continued support of the channel.